Hello, welcome to the L1 show, Links with Friends. It is April 4th, and we're here with government and social stories to start your week off.
I think
Maybe not right, but to start it off.
Well, it's Tuesday.
That's the start of the week.
4-day week.
We had to shoo our editors away.
Oh, yeah.
So it's good to see, Krista, and I think a lot of the people who view regularly that you're wearing glasses today.
Yeah. So by the time you guys see this, I will have gone to the eye doctor to get my new prescription and get new contacts. I've been stretching an old pair of contacts for a while now. I usually wear glasses at home, but last week I was like, I'm going to wear, contacts to work, and it just didn't work
If
out.
you're one of those people who's really frugal and you're like, you can stretch these contacts, it's not a big deal. Watch last week.
Eventually you can't. Eventually they will dry out and they will make your eyes really hurt.
As someone who uses email fairly regularly, I got more than a few emails that were concerned.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, they were fine. I saw some of the comments and I posted on Twitter. It was like, I'm fine, just an old pair of contacts.
It's like, I tried to email Krista and it bounced. I'm emailing you instead. Thanks.
When I'm over here doing stuff, like I don't spend a lot of time looking over there, so I didn't realize how bad it was. But it was
Yeah, I was trying to keep my eyes closed or not. There's a studio light here and here, so it's like you're trying not to look at it the whole time. But it's fine now.
Well, when it comes to deer in the headlight looks, this man gives us so many. But maybe this is a good thing because we do have the chip shortage thing. I don't know. It seems like anytime a government does this, it turns out to be unintended consequences.
Reuters has the headline, Biden invokes Defense Production Act for printed circuit board production. He's really worried about those printed circuit boards. You connect the dots here. And the reason he's worried about printed circuit boards is because China and Hong Kong, because the circuit boards that were made in China were maybe questionably tainted. No, that's cool. We can have circuit boards made in Hong Kong. Not a big deal. Oh, wait. And so that's leaked through. That's not really officially announced or documented anywhere, but that is a huge problem that they're trying not to call direct attention to. But it's not just the circuit board production. It's also chip production and everything else. And that's what he meant to say. But, once again, federal government has fumbled this and not really understood what's going on.
Also, they don't really come out and say it here, but if you read between the lines, this is mostly for defense missiles and stuff like that. It's like literally the components that we're putting in the stuff that we're sending to Ukraine. This ain't going to affect your video cards.
They care about those, to be sure, but less.
And here's a good one. I kept looking for the loophole here. I couldn't find it, but that doesn't mean there isn't one, or it doesn't mean that anybody will actually pay attention to this.
Biden executive order bans federal agencies from using commercial spyware. So this is a follow through with the thing that we were talking about last week and the week before, where it turns out that the FBI had bought the Israeli spyware.
Well, they purchased a
yeah.
license. They claim they never used it.
Well, and even in this article, there's a quote where they were like, someone asked, do any federal agencies use it now? And they're like, we can't talk about that.
I think they split hairs on using it. The question was, do you use it? And they split hairs on it's never been used on an active investigation. And it's like, well, that's not a no.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But I guess it's good. I guess if we do catch them using it in a data leak or something, maybe we can do something about it. Oh, wait, no, that never works.
No. Yeah. And we learned from James Clapper that if he's giving you a lot more answers than yes or no, he's lying.
Maybe they're just investing in American spyware.
That would be nice.
American manufacturing.
Although I'm pretty sure that RSA and Juniper are already owned by the three-letter agencies, so it's kind of like...
And this was a hot topic years ago when it was just different companies doing it. Those companies are still doing it. And it raises the question of, so the reason for this is advertising, but it raises the question of why are we wasting money advertising people to go to public websites? Shouldn't they go to public websites just because they need something?
A lot of people don't even know they exist, but we actually have some really nice government agency sites. They're not always easy to navigate, but the extension sites are great, but people don't know about them.
See also the healthcare website?
They're super easy to navigate if you got the CCP backdoor login.
Yeah.
TikTok trackers embedded in the U.S. state government websites review finds. So these are the advertising trackers. These were probably put here by ad agencies that these organizations are working with because the government does advertise things like their the free file tax website because H&R Block and Intuit really don't want you to know about those.
But this was 40 some websites across 37 states. This ain't just the IRS.
Yeah.
So think about this. While we're banning TikTok with government money, we're paying TikTok with government money
to advertise.
And to track whether or not that was successful, we're putting TikTok pixels on government websites.
Yeah. It's just the same as the Facebook pixel.
Yeah.
Except
wait.
We never declared war on Facebook.
Well, they kind of did, but then that whole congressional hearing just turned into, how do I accept a friend request from my grandson?
I'm 100% sure that Mark Zuckerberg would disagree that he doesn't feel at war with.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this will be a spicy comment section, but I totally agree with it. Yes,
do too.
TikTok is evil. For sure, the Chinese Communist Party is deep into it. But people, not governments, people must be allowed to make bad decisions. That's called freedom.
Reuters headline is Republican Senator Rand Paul blocks bid to ban Chinese-owned TikTok. Look, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
AOC also defended this and was like, TikTok, we should be allowed to use TikTok.
Yeah, well, for different reasons. That's her voter base. But that's kind of one of the arguments he used. He was like, listen, I'm a libertarian. This is a freedom issue. But if you don't think about it in those terms, the GOP will never get elected again because we will alienate all the youth of this country if we take this away from them.
Her point, I think, was that, oh shoot, I watched it and I can't remember the point now, but hers was like, the point should be that we should have better privacy protections in general that would block not just TikTok, but also Facebook and the others from gathering all your data.
The proposed mechanism for blocking TikTok is also far, far overreaching, which we will discuss in a different story.
But he made that same point, which is tell me what's different about what TikTok is doing than Facebook and Google.
Right.
Yeah.
It's funny that the bipartisan support of like, hey, maybe we should just put privacy protections in place.
I would say that we probably don't even need a special law. Like, if there is some intelligence thing, share it. Like, can the public know what we know from an intelligence standpoint? Because if we did, Google would probably ban it from the App Store. Apple would probably ban it from the App Store because those are already captured captured platforms. That would pretty effectively stop TikTok distribution.
Do you really think Google would go against the CCP? In the past, they never have.
I think it's if it was exactly the situation we're asking you to do this, or we're going to pass draconian laws that are just really awful and onerous to comply with, Google would say
that's not freedom. That's not freedom. It's like you can do it of your own will, or we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
No, that's not the same thing.
We should just have privacy laws, and just make everybody comply with them.
And here's a sad F's in the chat for this horrible, horrible outcome for a follow-up this week.
The Internet Archive has lost its fight to scan and lend ebooks like a library. And the subheadline from The Verge is, a federal judge has ruled against the Internet Archive in a lawsuit brought by 4 book publishers. I would say a good alternate subheadline would have been, federal judge seems to not understand how libraries work.
One of his arguments, and I'm paraphrasing, but just a little bit, he said, because they brought up Google Books. And he was like, well, yeah, Google Books was transformative. Yes, they did kind of the same thing you're doing here. But then they turned that into a searchable database, and that was transformative. So in my mind, it's like, create a searchable database on the Internet Archive?
Well, it was searchable.
Well, I guess he thought Google did something more.
No. The strongest argument against this in the case was that the Internet Archive did away with their controlled digital lending limitations, but it's more subtle and nuanced than that. So what the publishers said was that when the Internet Archive loaned a copy of their digitized book, they had 10 copies, let's say. But when all the libraries were shut down, they took away the limitations. And that's not perfectly accurate. What they did was they talked to a coalition of librarians and they said, how many copies do you have in your library? And the number of books that were not checked out in libraries all across the country was an insanely large number. And so that number became the number of books that you could check out from the Internet Archive. And that's what publishers had a problem with.
This is just more, publishers are not happy with libraries. That's the
Period.
That's the end game.
Yeah.
So this is a continuation of that, and it will continue.
We really need to fight for the Internet Archive here, or libraries in general will be in danger. We're going to see stuff all over the country where local and municipal governments and state governments zero out libraries' budgets, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we don't have a choice because we need that money for another budget, a budget that is just woefully underfunded. I mean, we give basically nothing to the military, and now we're going to have to give them even more because we need a new branch.
U.S. military needs 7th branch just for cyber, current and former leaders say.
Okay, so maybe I'm a bit of a moron, but I was like, Army, Navy, Air Force, and now the Space Force. What are the other?
Marines?
Are the Marines separate? I thought the Marines were part of the Navy. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Oh,
Don't
we're
listen.
getting a lot of angry comments.
I don't know. I don't know anything about the military.
No, the Navy fights on the water. The Marines land on the beaches.
Okay. But what are the other branches? What am I missing? Because it says 7th branch in the headline.
Air, fire, water,
Yeah.
nuclear.
Wait, so we got the basic 4 plus space.
That's all I couldn't find an answer in the article. I don't know.
Nuclear.
I'm showing how ignorant I am.
Executive? Does the executive branch count?
Does it?
He's the commander in chief, but I don't know if they count that as a military branch. Oh, but Homeland probably, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. And maybe the National Guard, would that count?
That's probably it.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, really kind of horrifying. I imagine a future where it's like, okay, you can borrow these books from the library, but we're going to need you to review these incident logs from firewalls first. Okay, you've reviewed enough firewalls, then you're helping us with this cyber threat. Then you can borrow your library. That's where the library.
I think they're just mad because.
Are we mixing stories here?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still mad about it. And I kind of don't blame him though, because like, I think everything's just moving into you need to pay to do anything, and the library's free, and people don't like that.
Especially the publishers.
People like that.
The people like that, but the people in charge don't like that.
Hideously evil people will try to convince other people that they don't actually want that when it's marginally successful. Apparently, they've convinced a federal judge, which is just terrible.
And another follow-up, we kind of knew this was coming because it was spelled out. They were like, yeah, Google, you did not do enough. Google had some arguments in rebuttal, but they fell on deaf ears.
Reuters headline is the U.S. court sanctions Google for deleting evidence in antitrust cases. There's not really a lot of details. The Reuters article, I try to find a better source, but I kind of agree with Google. And one of the things that the judge was mad about is the judge was mad that Google wasn't worried the judge was mad. Okay. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but the judge literally said something very close to, you don't understand the gravity of your action or inaction here because you left it up to individual employees to preserve the relevant stuff. But even in the stuff the judge was saying, the judge wasn't saying preserve everything. It was preserve the relevant stuff. And Google said, we did preserve all the relevant stuff, but we still left, there's a general policy we have to delete chats after 24 hours, which we didn't alter for this, but that's not a reasonable requirement, which I kind of agree with.
But that's a weird policy.
Yeah. It is a weird policy.
Why would you ever do that?
Yeah, like what if you forgot to, save part of a meeting and then it's like you go back to check your notes and it's gone? Like,
And if you argue that it's like that's undue burden of data storage, look who you're talking to.
What if it's not 24 hours though? What if it's like just employee to employee chat? It's like you got 2 weeks from the time it happens to archive it in something other than chat. That would be reasonable.
That'd be more
There's
reasonable.
There's just too much crap in there.
It still makes no sense.
Yeah.
And the SEC, this fella here, he runs the place and he is making an interesting argument with all the stuff that's going on, all the horrible financial collapse that was, I wouldn't say it was caused by it, but it might have been triggered by the crypto collapse. And he's saying, hey guys, listen, all these new rules and stuff that you're looking for, we don't need those. The stuff that I set up is perfect and it doesn't need to be changed.
SEC Chair Gensler says the existing rules regulate crypto. Legislation unnecessary. So
You're telling me legislation is necessary.
you're telling me you've been asleep at the wheel.
Now, why would he maybe not want somebody else to take over this job? Could there be some reason that he wants us to not do that?
SEC's Gensler seeks a $2.4 billion in funding to chase down crypto misconduct, quote unquote.
So on one hand, there's $2.4 billion worth of misconduct. On the other hand, everything's fine.
Well, they have a plan in mind for stuff they want to do, and they're more bureaucratic regulation would be bad for whatever they've got planned.
170 new employees to chase down crypto bros is what they want.
Also, this website, every time we have a story from here, it cracks me up because it's like, buy this article, it's an NFT. And it's like, who's doing that?
They're still trying to make NFTs a thing. But
Yeah.
that's the water is slowly draining out of that aquarium. And we didn't talk too much about the Twitter files because I'm tired of the arguments in the comments. But Matt Taibbi was the guy who was mostly published all that stuff. Elon gave him access to the trove and he went through it and found some amazing stuff. The White House and the other government officials did not care for that. So they summoned him to be questioned in one of those beautiful congressional hearings that proves how dumb they all are. While he was testifying, something interesting happened.
The White House remains quiet on surprise visit to Taibbi's house. So the IRS went to his house, which is weird.
For dinner, right?
He wasn't there. It's so
Right. Yeah,
strange.
they left a note.
Yeah.
That's so polite of them.
They left a note saying, your 2021 and 2018 tax returns are incorrect and you better get in touch with us. Some people think that might have been a bit of a threat.
An overt. It's weird.
IRS says it was a misunderstanding.
Sorry we missed you. We'll come back for dinner later. XOXO. The IRS.
So that's why the IRS needs so many bullets.
I believe that our beautiful operating system here is preventing Chrome from updating, and that's why you won't be able to read anything on this page.
Or
I
an intern
apologize.
has completely destroyed the Guardian's website, and they're panicking right now before everyone gets back from lunch.
It was fine like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, this one is okay. So the TikTok thing, the solution to TikTok, our glorious leaders tell us, is the Restrict Act. And if you read this story or any mainstream story I was able to find, they mention nothing about what's really in there.
It's bad. It's really bad. You need to register. Yeah, this is a little broken.
The headline is just, they have a new bill to restrict TikTok. It's the Restrict Act.
Yeah.
Except it's not just TikTok.
The Restrict Act is very bad news for technology and the aforementioned freedom. And imagine the Patriot Act on mutant steroids. Like give it mutant dinosaur DNA.
I would compare it more to the what do they call the Child Protection Acts?
Oh yeah.
Where it was like, we got to protect the children, and for some reason to protect the children, we need control over every online transaction.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing with the Restrict Act. And you can go and read it, and the language in it is just insane.
Well, it's just so broad. It's clearly not just targeting TikTok.
Right.
And so you'd be like, no, it's just for foreign. Well, foreign or someone in the U.S. that they suspect of bad things. That's one of the big caveats in it. They can use this against their own people, and they will.
Remember how it was like, oh, this doesn't apply unless you're within 100 miles of a border. And it's like, well, that's a large part of the country.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, but it's about social media. No, they just use the word transaction.
Yeah.
Like data transaction, monetary transaction, it all counts. This is a blanket control, and it's terrible. But a lot of people are going to be bloodthirsty against China and be like, no, we've got to have this.
This also wasn't written just for TikTok. Like this was obviously not written for TikTok. It looks like this was written as far back as like the 90s, and it's just been
Hopping around somewhere in someone's email inbox.
a few little things bolted on for modern technology, but it really is about having less than transparent control of the technical infrastructure we use for communication, which seems very dangerous.
Remember when we had the Patriot Act like 10 minutes after 9/11?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, wait,
That was awful quick.
there's a lot of pages here. How did you do that so quickly? I don't worry about that.
But also it had a lot of follow-on effects that had nothing to do with the original mission of what they told us. This is worse.
Moving over to Europe, they are also feeling the crazy changes that are coming from AI, and they're thinking about like, what are we going to do about this?
With ChatGPT hype swirling, the UK government urges regulators to come up with some rules for AI. There is a little bit of a mini panic kerfuffle around, restricting AI and doing stuff with AI and blah, 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 but it's going to happen. There's already too much inertia.
Wait, are you saying the restriction's going to happen or AI is going to happen?
AI is going to happen, so there would be no sense in the UK doing this. It will only harm themselves.
Yeah. When people talk about it's like we must have a moratorium on AI research, Yeah, that's like saying, let's uninvent gunpowder. It just isn't realistic. Someone's going to do it. And they might not tell you about it. They might not even release it themselves, but it'll get out there.
Yeah. We're on the trajectory. The sequence of events are already in motion.
Oh, another Guardian story.
I still my head thing for this is that it's just an intern who messed up the CSS.
This is so it's a Norwegian company that makes ammunition. What a great name they came up with, Nammo. But they have a very specific problem because they're really they're at full tilt cranking out shells and stuff because everything's going to Ukraine. There's a blank check for it, but they have a problem.
This Norwegian company, I don't know what the headline is, but the Norwegian company can't get enough power to expand their operations because TikTok already bought up all of the spare power at a data center.
There's a quote in the article from the guy who runs this place, and he's like, basically all the electricity's being shuttered off to go store cat videos at a storage center.
But it's kind of like if the government complains about that, they shouldn't, because this is their own doing. They required TikTok to in-country all of the data. So TikTok was like, okay, we'll build a data center. And now I'm sure because of some of their energy policies, they can't give enough power. So who gets the priority?
I'd say that somebody there is one of our ships that can generate a lot of power is being deployed right now. And it's like, we're just going to park this and run a cable from the sea and just plug into our nuclear reactor. It's good to go.
I like how, the meme about, you're switching the train tracks to choose the least possible.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Chinese surveillance or proxy war wealth transfer. Which one do you want?
Neither are good.
And one of the most beautiful things about ChatGPT, it's, there's probably some darkness on the horizon because of ChatGPT.
Let's be real.
But there were two things that it destroyed that I'm so excited about: NFTs and the metaverse. It's so good. I think we're finally ready to give up on both of those bad ideas.
NFT plans for Royal Mint produced, the token dropped. I got the inflections on that completely wrong.
Yeah, but I understood. We knew what you were going for.
Plans for Royal Mint produced token have been dropped.
It's kind of a weird headline.
Because no one cares about NFTs anymore. Thank God.
King Charles NFT, who's asking for that?
My thought process was just interrupted with an amazing idea for a science fiction story. The AI, a future AI from just a few years from now, invented cryptocurrency because that would bring about, they altered the timeline in the most subtle way possible to accelerate the rate at which hardware capable of matrix multiplication would be produced. And so cryptocurrency, the whole reason that it existed was to bring about the hardware that can run AI faster.
And the more and more countries are taking a side in the China issue, and more countries are landing on our side of the China issue.
Belgian intelligence puts Huawei on its watch list. The Belgians are a little behind the times, aren't they? I like how this article too says that their intelligence service looked at something, saw something, and said, "Oh crap!" And then that's why they're on the list.
They had kind of ignored the problems, and they had built out some stuff, some infrastructure, and we're like, "Nah, we can use Huawei. It's fine." Maybe not.
It was maybe not fine.
Yeah. How could they possibly? These cameras are behind a firewall. How could it possibly pose a threat? Oh.
And the TikTok madness, of course, continues to spread. More and more governments are going against it.
France bans TikTok and Twitter from government staff phones.
You know how they announced it?
On TikTok?
Twitter. They tweeted it. So someone in the government announced a ban on Twitter on government phones on Twitter.
Well, it hadn't taken effect. And let's be honest, as erratically as Elon Musk has been behaving, does anyone blame him?
There is a loophole.
I think they can use it on desktop, right?
No, you can get a special dispensation if you're like, hey, I run the official Twitter of whatever.
Oh, you're like a social media person.
You can have that. But they also, it's all personal apps. So dating apps, social media apps, and I think there was one more thing no longer allowed.
Which seems fair for a government official.
Yeah. Well, look, we're still in a world where website sandboxing is far superior to application sandboxing. Ergo, it follows that on a government phone or whatever, you can use a dating website. That's probably fine if that's your only phone. I mean, not really, not during working hours.
Yeah, that's why do we need that?
But well, if you only have the one phone, which seems
No,
you
get
should
your
have
own
two.
For
phone.
government
Yeah.
officials, yeah.
I guess that makes sense.
Does the government give everybody a phone?
Well, it's from an architectural standpoint, that aside, it still doesn't make sense to me that applications have worse security than a website. It should be the other way around. An application should be even more sandboxed than a web application.
Well, the Olympics are coming up. How hyped are you?
Who's hosting?
France.
Oh. I had just not excited at all.
Now there is some unrest in France. You
Just
think
a
that'll
little.
have an impact on it?
Bless him for just out there. I saw a picture this week where it was like, it was in Paris and there was like a huge dumpster fire in the street. And then there was like a couple just eating at a cafe.
Saw that, yeah.
And they were just,
Actually, it was a video,
they're having a great time.
and more people came up, and they were like, "Oh, here's a nice table. Let's have some
Yeah.
wine."
While there's like flames in the background. I love it.
Oh, what else are you gonna do?
You guys keep doing you, France.
But I would say to our French viewers, while you are out there being furious about that thing, get furious about this too, because this is going to be real bad.
France sets EU precedent with 2024 Olympics surveillance arsenal. Yay! AI cameras to do face recognition and identity tracking and all the most dystopian Orwellian stuff you could think of. It's right here in a package deal.
I'm kind of amazed that Paris didn't already do this.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't had the chance to do Olympic Games.
They're like, well, while we have all this funding, we
Yeah,
might as
exactly.
well.
And yeah, the subheadline: privacy advocates argue such security infrastructure could become permanent. Will become permanent.
Yeah.
No question about it.
They're not going to spend the money to rip it out.
Of course not. That's crazy.
Soon you'll have to riot in the streets with like a mask on.
This was, in my mind, this was a nonsense. I guess this has always been here.
Well, there's got to be a language thing here, right? Because I don't know why they called it this.
No.
It does seem like it was a bit of a problem, but that's just a weird name for it.
French prosecutors raid SocGen and others in connection with scandal.
So in Latin, that's with. But that doesn't make any sense if you repeat it either. So I don't know.
Well, they called it
Yeah.
it has to do with
We're trying to avoid being demonetized, but
like fake trading and wash trading and stuff like that. You know, you're faking it. I don't know why they call it that.
I read a
but-
description, not in this article, but I read a description of what was going on, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this is what's going on with GameStop and short selling and naked shorting and all that other stuff. And
Does GameStop pay a dividend? I doubt it. So when you buy a stock that pays a dividend, there's a date, the OPEX date or ex-dividend date. You have to own the stock on that day at that time, and then you get the money. The dividend is they pay you money. So what they were doing is they were selling it right before then and then getting it right back. And then splitting the tax bill with whoever took it for the lower tax rate because they're not a bank. So definitely not a cool thing, trying to dodge taxes and scrape pennies, but a weird name for it.
maybe someone who's French can explain that. Maybe it means something else.
Maybe we'll get some explanations that have nothing to do with French and are just people trying to be funny.
great.
And the DDoS market, DDoS for hire, is a big thing. It's an awful thing. And the UK government has a new thing they're doing to try to stop it.
The UK sets up a fake booter site to muddy the DDoS market. So if you don't like somebody, you can pay some random website a vanishingly small amount of money to take them off of the internet by just flooding it with crap. And so the UK thought the best way to combat that was to set up a site that does the same, but then doesn't actually do that and says, what are you trying to do?
They didn't arrest anybody. They just angry phone calls.
I think they probably arrested a few people and it was teenagers every time. And then they were like,
Well, those
Messing with Blizzard servers.
those young adults and teens, they can get rowdy. They do. They like to abuse the drugs and alcohol. And if you had a country that, let's say, advertised that, maybe you would draw them in, and maybe you don't want them.
Amsterdam launches a stay away ad campaign targeting young British men. I guess in Amsterdam, young British men do not have any manners.
Well, I don't think they have any manners at any time.
No.
It's just that the other British people are used to it. and the people of Amsterdam are more peaceful.
I've seen a couple news stories about Amsterdam this week where it seems like they're trying to clean up their public image a little bit, so it's not just considered like a party capital.
But I mean, it kind of is.
It kind of is, yeah.
I mean, they've got the legalized prostitution. They got
Which
the
they're trying to
legalized
move out of the
drugs.
city right now. So.
And Italy, this was a late story. I did not get to read the whole thing, but I think it's pretty basic. I don't know how they intend to enforce this, but they've done it.
OpenAI's ChatGPT blocked in Italy, according to Privacy Watchdog. You dig into this and you try to see what Italy's concerns are. It seems well worded, but they basically say in 20 days we're going to fine you millions of euros because we don't think you can stop operating in Italy.
Yeah. Don't know how you would prove that. And the TikTok ban, that seems to be the hot new thing, right? If we do it, a lot of people are going to follow suit. They're already announcing.
Japan lawmakers eye a ban on TikTok and others if used improperly.
Interestingly, their angle was not so much about surveillance as false information. They feel like China is trying to convince their people of certain things.
There was
That's probably true.
the Reuters article on this is surprisingly not good. What set all this off was there was a Uyghur influencer who is doing stuff in China and saying, "Look how amazing this is." Oh,
I mean Japan?
No, in China, but he flew over to Japan for like the tourism thing, and it was like, "Look, there's no kidney harvesting going on. Everything is good." But it's so over the top that it's obviously.
Oh, you're saying he's like a TikTok Uyghur.
Right.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah.
Special place in hell for that, huh?
Yeah. And so the people in Japan were just so incensed by this because it was like.
So transparently, actually, the Chinese government.
Yeah. And so like if you were curious, if you thought that kidney harvesting might be going on and then you saw that, you would know for sure that kidney harvesting is definitely going on because it's so over the top. No, there's no kidney harvesting going on. Look, this is an amazing lifestyle. I'm doing great. And it's just propaganda.
And you know what? I shouldn't say special place in hell because there's probably more of a chance that instead of monetary payments and rewards, there's a gun to one of his family members' heads.
Yeah.
So
seems likely.
Sucks.
It just doesn't seem like that would. It doesn't seem credible. If you go watch it, it's actually kind of disturbing because it's so. It's like something out of science fiction. It really is.
Well, if you're a high-ranking CCP member, you do have to be very concerned because when it comes your turn to need the kidney, there are going to be a few young, fresh kidneys floating around because your policies created a demographic crisis.
Chinese colleges are giving students a week off to fall in love as the country struggles to keep its birth rate up.
Apparently, this is like spring break. They didn't have spring break. A lot of colleges still don't have spring break in China.
No, I don't know if we're going to have it after this year either. It didn't go well. I would recommend maybe not having children with someone that you've only known for a week.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
What's crazy about this, too, when you read the article is like, it's not that they're just allowed to have a week off. It's like they also have assignments about documenting how they had fun during the week. And I was like, that kind of defeats the point a little bit when you have to do assignments talking about what you did.
And it's all like post on a blog, post photos, make social media posts. It's like, yeah, create the image.
Yeah.
That's what we need from you, young people.
A little dark.
Oh, I have some thoughts about this one. I gotta have a segue. I'm sorry.
And China is, I guess turnabout is fair play, right? We've called them out on the carpet, so now they've chosen a target.
The Reuters headline is China to examine U.S. chipmaker Micron's products for cybersecurity risks. This is a Reuters article, and you should go read this. But I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to walk you through the next few months of events as they're going to happen. So China's going to look at Micron products, and they're going to find flaws. And it's like, oh, there's stuff here, blah, blah, blah. No, they're mostly going to find rowhammer. You know, rowhammer? Rowhammer is still a thing. All DRAM suffers from rowhammer type problems. They're going to find rowhammer and they're going to say, oh my gosh, this is some sort of US backdoor thing. If you put the wrong thing in memory, it does this. It's like, no, rowhammer is systematic flaw in all DRAMs. It's even domestically produced in China DRAM, blah, blah, blah. There's a thing that we do now to deal with Rowhammer, which is the information actually stored in the cell is randomized from what you think you're storing in the cell to try to deal with Rowhammer. It's still possible to discover it, and there are still some aspects of it that are ephemeral, but Rowhammer is not a problem that's really been solved well for DRAMs. But that is way different than some of the security issues that have been uncovered with like Huawei and Hikvision cameras and some of the other stuff that are coming out. But they're going to make there's going to be enough there that they can make the apples to apples comparison. And our politicians are not going to understand on either side probably. And it's just going to be a huge mess. But they can take something that's innocent and turn it into something political and insane. And that's definitely coming.
Well, we've been talking a few weeks now about the
Elon
issue
predicted.
with undersea cables between China and Taiwan. There's one specific cable that just keeps getting cut by fishing boats. Don't know how that's
So
happening.
weird.
Now, Reuters, I like how you can tell when Reuters does like a really in-depth article. And
They really
spends
try.
money,
Yeah.
you get this beautiful header image. But when it's just like AI-generated spam, it's just like, oh, it's just a white background. We don't even care. But they did a lot of investigation here and looked back at, they say that trade wars lead to hot wars. The U.S. was doing some trade war stuff here. I'm not saying that China wasn't, but China was all over the globe like, yeah, let's do some undersea cables. And Uncle Sam was like, maybe we'll do it instead. And if you don't let us, maybe there'll be sanctions.
U.S. and China wage war beneath the waves over internet cables. Look at that artwork.
I like the
Look
bubbles.
at his little striped pants. I love him.
I like the bubbles. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
In an angry white man versus a dragon type situation, that it's not going to go well for.
It should have been an eagle. Our avatar is weak in this representation.
Yeah, Uncle Sam, come on. Hit us with the bald eagle.
An eagle. I mean, it's not like we would confuse the cable for a rock or anything.
Yeah. So it's a long article. They got a lot of details here, but basically it's just all about, everybody's trying to control the cables because then you control the information. I'm unfortunately not confident that we're not also spying on those cables,
Absolutely.
We're not also doing bad things with our fishing boats and with those cables.
or that we wouldn't if we were so pressed, if we had not won the contracts.
Yeah. Do you think we could also blow them up?
Probably.
You're not allowed to say that. And India. Boy, I like how India is treating the big tech companies, but I don't like how they're treating their people. And they're not, it's like what they're taking away from the big tech companies, it seems to be just like, yeah, we're going to take these surveillance marbles, we're going to move them into our pile. That's what we're going to do.
India, government's pursuit of new surveillance technology heightens human rights concerns. So, Krista, is this like the seeing stones? It's like India thinks they're all accounted for, right, in this universe, so they're going to keep using them. Is that how that works?
So
Maybe.
what they don't really, this is not a great headline, but what kicked this off was that India put out, it wasn't like a press release, but they let it be known, hey, we're in the market for spyware, but it can't be like the NSO spyware because people can detect that now. We got caught. We need a better spyware. Who's got that? And everybody was like, why would you need that, India?
India, you can't just throw that out there on the marketplace.
Oh, they did it. They got away
I'm
with
imagining
it.
a Facebook marketplace post with that, or like a Craigslist ad. Hi, need better spyware.
There was somebody that in response to that seemed to put up their hand and say, well, we've got that on the cell towers and stuff. Do you need that? And they said, oh no, we got that. It's like,
Great.
Yeah, no, this is like journalists.
Yeah.
They want the 0-click phone infiltration. Yeah.
it's like if you know their phone number, you can tell where they are, and you can tell a lot of data in and out of the phone. And India said, oh, we got that. We want control of the actual phone. It's like, dudes, if you got all the data, even if it's encrypted in and out of the phone, you're doing pretty good.
No, I need it even easier.
Well, you know who's got it easy? Is this man. He
Could have gone in nonsense.
now, to be fair, he has been a Russian citizen since 2016, although technically this conflict started in 2014. Let's remember that. So he ignored that part of it. And yeah, he's decided to lend his considerable prowess to the Russian soldiers.
Russia recruits Steven Seagal to teach martial arts to its soldiers.
If you're some poor conscript and this guy comes in, are you just like, oh no?
Where's that surrender phone number?
Oh yeah.
I've been watching, whatever. I watch all the War Leaks YouTube channel. I love that. It's like the Ukraine footage and stuff. And so far, it's a small slice of the war, I'm sure. So far, I've not seen a situation where Aikido would have changed the outcome.
Yeah.
It's mostly drones dropping grenades on people. So,
Well, that was somebody that wasn't alert enough. They could have totally Aikido'd that back before. It
oh
exploded.
yeah, they could have tapped into their awareness,
Yeah.
their third eye. It's like drone.
And then they just fly up in the air like an anime character and kick it away.
And then you do like a key blast and take it out of the sky.
What was the movie where the one of the characters in the movie did that? Like somebody tossed a grenade into their foxhole, but they sensed it was coming and they used their rifle like a bat. So they stood up and they grabbed the barrel of their gun and they just hit the grenade
Yeeted
back.
it out. Was that what movie was that?
Sounds like a terrible movie.
Yeah.
It was my spider senses an incoming grenade. I'll handle this. I don't think it would work that way in real life.
It'd be cool if you could do that in PUBG. That would make the game way funner.
There
Should add
are,
that to the new Counter-Strike.
I've seen Counter-Strike clips where grenades collided midair.
Oh, really?
The
But you
physics
can't
is
just
good
pick
enough.
them up again, though, right? Like, I'm imagining a scenario where, like, one drops and it's not done cooking and you can, like, throw
No,
it back.
I don't think you have the opportunity to pick up a grenade, but it will stop. They'll
Yeah.
collide and then fall, so they don't neither get to the destination. But they still blow up.
Yeah.
And this was also a very late breaking story. And I'm not sure how reliable the source here is, but I don't think any of this would really surprise anybody.
No.
We kind of already knew that all this stuff was going on.
Vulcan Files leak reveals Putin's global and domestic cyber warfare tactics.
I wonder if this is why all of a sudden we're like, we need a seventh branch of the military to
Well,
combat this. I
hopefully
guess.
we already knew about this. 'Cause
Yeah.
We knew about the satellite hacks. We knew about them attacking the energy infrastructure and stuff like
The
that.
satellite hacks were never officially confirmed. Like we've never officially said that's where that is.
But we know.
Yeah, the people that were brought in to clean it up from a commercial standpoint were like, there's a lot of evidence here that points to Russia. In intelligence circles, it was Russia.
And the president of El Salvador is quite the tech bro. He is famously the guy who invested in Bitcoin right before it went down in price.
Cratered.
A massive amount. He is still investing in Bitcoin. He claims he wants to use his volcanoes to power cryptocurrency. And now
Definitely not a Bond villain.
seems like he wants to snap up all the tech companies that might be alienated from all the other parts of the world.
The Reuters headline is El Salvador president readies bill to eliminate taxes on tech. Come to El Salvador. Be a tech company in El Salvador.
What benefit is that for them if they're not taxing it?
Sundar Pichai saw that headline and he's just like goosebumps. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I need that.
I mean, you're going to have to upgrade all your infrastructure for all those tech companies and they're not paying taxes?
Chris, I think about the number of companies that are in the double Dutch Irish sandwich or the Bahamas or St. Kitts and Nevis. And if El Salvador had been just a slightly friendlier destination, that could have been El Salvador.
Yeah. I mean, a data center that nobody ever really has to even go to.
Yeah.
You got a skeleton crew of non-El Salvadorans taking care of it.
Running on free volcano electricity.
Yeah. And he's going to give you all kinds of tax breaks and probably going to give you energy. It's cheap energy too, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
Cheap energy for them. I can see why a tech company would like it. I'm confused why he's doing it. Other than he just wants them there.
well, but then you create, like, you become more of a world player in that.
I guess.
realm.
Yeah.
Plus, it's like building a Walmart, right? You don't just get a Walmart. All kinds of little businesses pop up around it whenever you bring it in. So if you bring in a Google data center, you're bringing in people who have to service all of those workers.
All
and
those
stuff.
workers. Yeah.
It's probably not a bad growth strategy, although he's already sort of in the red on the Bitcoin stuff.
Yeah. And then you have all the infrastructure costs like we were just talking about.
Well, I don't know, but this is a Canadian story, and I could not find a great source on this. I'm not too familiar with Democracy Watch. I don't know how reliable they are, but they do link to some actual language here, and this sounds horrific.
Liberals and conservatives in the bloc have approved together a commissioner of lobbying's proposal to gut key ethical lobbying rules. The fox and the boar have agreed that the hens should not be guarded.
So the current rule, the biggest, there's a lot of little weird changes here, but the biggest one is right now they have a rule that says if you work on a campaign, like if you campaign for Biden and he won the election in 2020, you cannot then lobby Biden because you already have a relationship with him until 2024, the next cycle, because they're 4 years just like we are. This would reduce that to 1 or 2 years.
Canada. This
So-
is for Canada.
Yeah.
Right, they're the same as us. 4 years.
But he just meant because you used Biden as an example.
Trudeau would have been a better example.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying they have the same election cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
So you could campaign for Trudeau, then he gets elected, and then you go to him and you're like, oh, Trudeau, we're such good friends. The ISPs need lower taxes. That'd be totally fine.
Right now, it's not fine.
Right now it's 4 years. It should be infinite.
Yeah, you would think, right?
I met this guy on my campaign. I know he really knows what he's talking about. He should tell me what I need to do as an elected official because
He bought me a lot of dinners, and he's a really nice guy. You know, he pays for my tab every time we go out to eat.
He knows so much about technology. Just let him decide. I don't know. I don't know these things.
there's a lot of that happening now as evidenced by the TikTok Congress hearings. And it's just the scariest thing I've ever seen.
And Disney, what a week for Disney. But the biggest one is another beautiful headline. I love it. Let's put as many nails in these coffins as we can.
Disney unplugs the metaverse unit during initial round of layoffs.
If Mickey Mouse dies in the metaverse, does he die in real life?
No.
He dies in real life when they lose the trademark.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were doing a little restructuring and they said, yeah, we're going to pull these guys off the metaverse unit. We don't see a future there.
The Star Wars story, the arc of Palpatine is Disney. It's like even when you think he's dead, he's not. He's still there.
Somehow
He's more powerful.
he
Somehow,
returned.
through the magic of bad writing, he returns. And Meta is weighing in. I mean, we kind of already knew what their attitude toward this was going to be, but they vocalized it on the whole ISPs pay the news thing.
Meta slams telco fee proposal and says ISPs should pay for their own network costs. Yeah, that is exactly right.
And they have the money. They're not short of money. They're making profits. They can afford it.
They're making wild profits.
And are you guys hip to Lemonade?
Nope.
No, and I messaged a friend of mine who's a little more hip to the social media. I was like, have you heard of this? And he was like, no.
Turns out it's been around for a while, but in just this like past couple of weeks, somehow it has exploded with users. Now, some cynics might say that those are some paid users, but those people just don't know what's cool.
TikTok backup plan. ByteDance-owned Instagram rival Lemon8 hits the U.S. App Store's top 10.
Another thing the TechCrunch reporter noticed is that a lot of really high-profile TikTokers have been making TikTok videos about this hot new app that they're using.
Interesting.
It's considered like a lifestyle app is what it was referred to as.
They would describe it as Instagram and something else, right?
I'm honestly a little surprised that Meta or Google or somebody is just so mired in their own inertia that they haven't come up with a fast, lightweight Twitter clone or a fast, lightweight TikTok clone, because everybody would move to that.
Everyone's trying so hard to mimic TikTok, and like no one's doing it well.
Or Twitter.
I think it's hubris, right? Because Zuckerberg clearly was like, no, it's going to be the metaverse. And everybody was like, no, Mark, it's not. It's not going to be
Stop
that.
trying to make the metaverse happen. It's not going to happen.
And then Google was like, nah, AI, we don't want to do that. That'll be disruptive. And I was like, well, guys, you guessed wrong on that one. So I think it is just at the top. They're so isolated. They have no idea.
Surrounded by yes men.
And women, because we got,
Yeah.
diversity hiring these days. Very important. And the Meta, they're up against these EU rules, and the EU is way more serious about it than we are. So they have to come up with novel ways to try and sidestep it.
Meta wants EU users to apply for permission to opt out of data collection.
So
Seems reasonable, but impossible to implement.
it's not even just like, do you want this? You have to go through a lengthy process of revoking the permission. So
I think the main problem...
Sounds like a dark pattern.
Yeah, I think the main problem with this is that the EU wants you to be able to continue to use the stuff after you opt out. And I think I think I would be okay with implementing this as the EU wants to, but I think it should be within Meta's right to say, okay, if you opt out of all of this stuff, then we're going to delete you from all of our stuff, but you also can't use any of our stuff. That'd be okay.
What a blessing they would be doing for someone.
Yeah.
You might not know it, but that would be so good for you.
Yeah.
Craigslist is just like, please do that.
Yeah, I almost think this is a little bit of a Trojan horse because it's obviously not reasonable to force somebody to service somebody if the way that they make money, they're servicing somebody at a loss, a business. And so the EU should not be able to do that. But then maybe that's the Trojan horse here, is that when Meta can show this, like, oh, the EU's forcing us to do that, maybe they would win a stay from the court.
Well, one of the worst things about TikTok, aside from the spying and the influence and the misinformation, is that people desperate for TikTok attention will very regularly pull in just bystanders into their TikTok nonsense. And that is not cool. And in this case, it turned out really badly.
Woman hospitalized after being pranked for TikTok in a Target store.
Was this story not like the most bizarre thing you read this week?
I did not understand. She was just a rando?
So it's a prank. It's basically like what you do with like a Skyrim NPC, where you throw a bucket on their head and then watch them react. But for whatever reason, this woman, I don't know if she had a health condition. The article didn't say.
No, it did.
But, well, it says she has a heart condition, but I don't understand how putting a bucket would make her faint.
Just like freaked her out,
Yeah.
She got so overstimulated that she just kind of blacked out.
It's interesting. Yeah, she apparently like asked for help and the kids ran away.
Yeah. That's assault.
Yeah.
And if there are no arrests here, then that's nonsense. And if these kids have monetized TikTok or whatever, she should get everything.
Yeah.
She should get everything anyway. Those families should be bankrupt after this. And this is, it's interesting how Elon Musk, he started at like the top of free speech mountain and he was celebrated. And then as he encountered all of the hurdles that everybody else encountered.
Once he encountered what the internet actually is like.
Yeah. And he got, upset and he got his toes stepped on. He has been backing further and further down Freedom Mountain.
Court orders GitHub to reveal who leaks Twitter's source code, despite Elon Musk promising that he was going to say.
They picked the worst photo of him.
It was a terrible photo.
Terrible photo. But to be fair, so we're recording this on Friday, the 31st. He said he would release the source code as of this recording date and time. He has not released it.
I didn't see if a headline comes late in the day, we'll miss it. There's no getting around it. But
he tends to do that. Always late on Friday.
This is all nonsense and a distraction, but it's insane that Twitter even cares about this.
Yeah.
And we now know that, of course, he bought Twitter for $44 million billion, and he said, "I realize I'm overpaying for this, but how much? You need to come up with a valuation, and it's very important that you come up with that valuation because you have to compensate your employees."
Twitter says, or Elon Musk now says, Twitter is worth $20 billion or less than half of what he paid. So they would receive stock grants based on a $20 billion valuation. Last year, he paid $44 billion to buy Twitter.
Which would be less than half
of
what you were expecting.
And he's probably going to try to claim that as a loss on his taxes, too, from now until the end of time.
I mean, that's probably a valid loss, right?
At least until somebody else wants to buy it for more, right?
Yeah. So not doing well. Now, he claims that he has a plan, although he says it would be a difficult plan, to get Twitter to $250 billion worth of valuation.
That involves everybody paying $8 a month.
He keeps wanting to put features behind walls, and I don't think that's going to work.
Somebody did the math, and it was like $8 per person for even just 15% of users was still going to be like 57 years to pay back $44 billion.
He's also doing the API.
Yeah.
And I saw another article where some people just doing like goofy Twitter API fun websites, they'd be paying something like $4,000 a month.
Assuming that they actually would pay it. And I don't think
they won't.
will.
No, God, no.
Everyone's going to be like, oh, never mind. I'll just switch over to something else that's free.
Plus, airplane tracker guy, he's going to have to start paying. Somebody should crowdfund that just to keep it going.
It should be one of the other like tech douches. It should be Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey should fund that.
I think Jack Dorsey's got to be, even though he's, probably wealthy beyond the dreams of avarice, I think he's got to be a little bit careful because he's probably lost a lot on all the things that didn't work out for him.
Yeah.
Oh, if you don't have a severe mental disability, you would not do any of this.
Yeah, I have no idea what would ever make you want to invest in that. But
Because like I was reading about you guys know about the unrealized gains tax that Biden wants to do?
Oh yeah, where if it's worth, and then you have to,
Like you don't have to sell your stock for him to tax you on it year after year, which is crazy. But one of the loopholes in that law is you have to have $100 million. And I was like, I'll never have $100 million. If I hit 25 million, I'll stop. I won't
you've
care
won
anymore.
at capitalism at that point. Who cares?
Why would I keep throwing my name out there unless I'm just a black hole of attention?
Right.
And these are the people who lead us.
I get Elon Musk doing PayPal, and I get Elon Musk doing Tesla, and I get Elon Musk doing SpaceX, but I don't get Twitter, unless it's just a compulsion.
Because it was his favorite toy.
Yeah, and he wanted to buy attention.
He got it.
Probably not the kind of attention he was maybe looking
Oh,
for.
I think he loves it. He thrives on it.
He's like a problem child where it's any attention is good attention.
I think though, if you're sitting there thinking though, and it's like I want to be real life Tony Stark, then Twitter doesn't help you do that. Going to SpaceX and Tesla and all of that help you go to the moon and help you be real life Tony Stark.
Yeah,
Buying Twitter doesn't do that.
Except part of Tony Stark's like persona, at least from the movies that I've seen, it was always that he was kind of like a
But that was a
cocky,
result of the insanity, not it was a chicken and egg problem there.
I can't remember his name, but the guy that runs BlackRock, he laughs at Elon Musk. He's like, "Oh, you think you have power?" That's funny.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, that's it. We'll see you guys next time.
Tomorrow.
Bye.
So much collapse news.